Hello there, my very good friends. On this wrestling news video, we are going to talk about the worst thing about being a wrestling fan in 2025 and why it's here to stay.
Joe Hendry speaks on the benefits of getting squashed by Randy Orton.
A released WWE star is generating massive interest.
And NXT is A-OK with the CW.
Nice. Anderson. Yeah. I'm Andy Murray.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the news, second one of the day. If you want to hear us talk about some bits and pieces, including Kenny Omega, Logan Paul, and Mr. Beast, you can check out the morning's news video. But the first one we're going to talk about here is something I think most people would agree sucks. If you don't think this sucks, I'd love to know why. Ticket prices in 2025, they're mental. Yeah. They're absolutely mental. I mean, you're looking at WrestleMania starting off with like a get-in price of like $400. Mm-hmm. I believe it went down the closer you got to the event because it didn't sell as well as previous years and all this stuff. But they started really high and continued that way. Here in the UK at the moment, you've got AEW Forbidden Door, which has a get-in price of like £196 or something like that. Price gouging is all over the place. Ticket prices have gone insane. It's the same with concerts. It's the same with pretty much everything, apart from the cinema over there that costs £4.99 to get in. A bastion.
Never change.
A bastion. But yeah, wrestling ticket prices have gone mental. And at least in WWE, it doesn't sound like that's going to change anytime soon because Mark Shapiro, who is the president and chief operating officer of TKO, that's WWE's parent company that also incorporates the UFC, has spoken quite highly of them. So he was speaking at, he does an annual appearance at the JP Morgan Global Technology, Media and Communications Conference.
Oh, a gathering of lovely people, that sounds like.
Yeah, it's in Boston. One of my favorite cities I've never been to. That's just because the hardcore is so good. Shout outs to Haywire in particular. But on ticket pricing, he said that this strategy has a tremendous upside. He also spoke quite highly about like site fees, which is when the city pays WWE to come. I think it just came out that they're earning $7 million for SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Dynamic pricing as well. He said that has tremendous upside, which is this trend in concert and event tickets where the price goes up based on demand and then it goes down when there's low demand. The Oasis tour was a big thing for this, where people were like £600 to get in and stuff like this. And he also spoke about a bunch of other things, but I think the key thing from a wrestling fan point of view is how much it's costing you to get in the building. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, from the business's perspective, and I'm not saying that high ticket prices are a good thing, so don't fight me. They will keep doing it because people keep paying for the high prices, which means that their gate is bigger, which means they earn more money, so they don't have much of an incentive from a cold, hard numbers perspective to lure them again. It's capitalism. It's how this whole system works. Yeah. From a fan's perspective, and that's me, I am fan, I would buy a ticket, for example, to a show, and I'll use Forbidden Door as an example. If the get-in price for that event was, I don't know, like £100, I'd have probably bought a ticket by now. But everyone has their own lines. Everyone has markers. For you, a $400 WrestleMania ticket for one night it might be nothing. For some other people, I just feel like we are pricing a lot of normal people out of these shows, and soon attendance is going to be like a luxury thing, and that's quite lame.
Yeah, it's there's a consumer profile element to this as well, isn't it? Because and this is not something that they would say. This is simply speculative stuff, and if you ever did anything like GCSE business studies, the idea is like the price of something may not reflect the value, but it does create a perception around that value. And yeah, to your point, the experience that you get in theoretically is more because you paid more. That may not be true. But then what you will then, as far as they're concerned, do is likely spend more money when you are in the building. So it can also justify the inflation of merchandise prices, because they can speculate that more money will be spent because the people have been willing to spend to get in the building in the first place. Venue, concessions, food, drink, all that sort of stuff. Everything can go up with it, because the idea is, well, if they were willing to pay this much to get in, they've been able to make that financial choice. They will then make other financial choices, and everybody gets richer.
Yes.
That's not the everybody. That's those guys at the JP Morgan media thing. That's the fat cats.
It's Big JP.
Indeed.
I've never met him, but I bet he's rich.
And it falls on our heads. Yeah, to Murray's point, I think it's important, isn't it, to note that, like, you may be watching this video and have loads of money, or have disposable income that you want to spend, and more power to you. There's no judgment. I have my own lines, as you do,
you
with
draw lines.
what you would pay for what you want to see. However, it is something I can speak, to this as a father of two. If both my kids were wrestling fans, even going to a house show at this point would probably set me back to the tune of 500 quid. Ergo, it's not happening. Sorry, lads. So like that then kind of freezes out, like a certain subsect of society that may want to indulge and may want to engage just in the things that they like. And that's sad all the way around. This is historically something that we sort of saw this coming, I think, with the TKO takeover, because with WWE at least, because this has been a UFC thing from fairly early on, as I understand it. Like, that was always the thing where, like, that was policy. And for the most part, it's proven successful. People have still attended in their numbers. But yeah, extending to AEW and beyond just pro wrestling, this gouging and this surging doesn't feel like it's going away anytime soon. Post-pandemic, the amount of venues that closed due to rising costs, the music industry is in tatters over this sort of thing. There will be a bust somewhere along the line, but then it very literally becomes at work cursed, because then it's very, historically, those prices don't go down, the numbers of people in the buildings do.
Yeah, exactly. So, and everyone's got their own line, and it's not necessarily a case of, like, for a lot of fans, it's not necessarily a case of not being able to afford it. Sometimes it's just like a principle thing.
Yeah.
So, like, probably a good example is, like, recently, a record that I loved. It was Finch, What It Is to Burn,
Huge Finch guy.
when I was younger, and have a lot of affection for. Vinyl release, I think it was the first time ever. Pre-order came out. I was like, sick, getting that. It was £45. Now, if that was £30, I'd have immediately clicked on it. 45, that just kind of triggers my no thank you. It's the same with wrestling. Like, looking at a get-in price of £200 or $400 or whatever, makes you think, maybe not.
Less house shows as well as now, so it's just less people getting exposed to live wrestling at affordable rates.
And then a part of that is the house shows were at one point for WWE before the pandemic, maybe a bit after as well, running at a loss. So it was like the monetary side of that was like, well, scale them back. It's just, it's the way the world is going. Events are becoming luxury. I wonder how much like a Coachella ticket costs. I bet that's like a remortgage your house.
Yeah. It's a shame. It is a shame.
But let us know what you think in the comments below. Ticket prices are spiraling for anything. Wrestling is not immune to it. And the takeaway from this story is that it's not going anywhere. The only thing that will ever make this change is if people stop going. And I know, like, WrestleMania wasn't as high attendance-wise at recent years, but it was nowhere near enough. It was like a minuscule amount. Like, it didn't make any difference to the bottom line because the prices were higher. The only way it'll ever change is if people stop going. I'm not advocating that you stop going to WrestleMania. If you're happy, go. Absolutely go. I loved it this year. I had a better time than most people who watched it at home. I'm really glad that I got to go. But that's what'll change it, is if the red line goes in a different direction, And also, we've rattled on a little bit here, but interesting facet of this is that there will always be counter movements to stuff like this, and there will always be cool, independent, underground versions of every form of art. If you don't want to spend, if Metallica come to Newcastle and the ticket's £400, I'm gonna go and spend £15 on a local show instead. There's always alternatives, and as always, explore. You might find your new favorite thing.
I mean, you might, or you can go to WrestleMania and see Hendry.
Aye, segue.
Segue. He had an even nicer time than we did on the grandest stage of them all.
He had a wrestle.
He did. He wrestled Randy Orton, of course. It didn't go very long, but he got one of the biggest pops of the night when he was announced as a surprise opponent for Randy Orton, replacing the injured Kevin Owens. There was all sorts of speculation around who it was going to be. And out came Joe Hendry as TNA World Champion. And was beaten in short order by Randy Orton. And that became a story in and of itself a little bit about the nature of the relationship between WWE and TNA and the usage of not just a TNA wrestler who has become massively popular over the last 12 months, but the TNA World Champion in that position. Well, Hendry was speaking on this to Chris Van Vliet about the nature of the squash and what it meant to him to be in that spot. He was far more positive, as I suppose you can imagine, but he did have a bit of rationale for it. He said, the thing is, for one, it was back and forth, so I got some offense in. Plus, it's Randy Orton's 20th WrestleMania. It's also Randy Orton. The thing is, I did the spin around, so that's me being the Joe Hendry character. The RKO is a one-hit kill. In that show, the feedback that I got was that it was what it was supposed to be. And let's be honest, the next however many days later, we had the biggest show TNA had ran in 10 years. We had a higher attendance than Slammiversary. We were past 4,000. I understand what this is, and my job is to put asses in seats for TNA wrestling. So I guess that's it's not so much a clapback, but that's a direct response to the questions of the validity of watching the TNA champion get squashed. Well, the TNA champion just worked in the biggest, brightest wrestling spotlight of the year, and Joe Hendry is able to kind of put two and two together and make 4,000 for the number that he drew. And as world champion, it behooves him to talk up his status as world champion and him being the flag bearer for the brand and somebody that's promoting it positively. If there are an undercurrent of criticisms that wouldn't count as positive promotion, he did go on to add that he'd taken some advice from John Cena. He said, I think in wrestling, everything is to be a story. The story is Joe Hendry lost to Randy Orton. How is the champion going to recover from this? Who else lost quickly at WrestleMania? John Cena. Who else? Triple H. People have lost quickly at WrestleMania, and these are the stories we're telling. He goes on to say, added more weight and drama to the triple threat with Frankie Kazarian and Ethan Page, because the partnership between WWE and TNA is now so strong, and he was, a beneficiary of that. So yeah, Joe Hendry, look, there's two things here. Joe Hendry absolutely should and would see the positives of how Joe Hendry's not going out WrestleMania. Sure. An amazing, lifelong dream, career achievement, bucket list, whatever you want to call it. Enormous, moment in any wrestler's career to have that kind of thing. But also it does, behoove him as TNA champion to be able to maybe talk through the choppier waters that came in the aftermath. He is, that belt, wrestling's a work, but when, you are given a top title, there are jobs and responsibilities and roles that come with that, and that is representing the brand. And Hendry wouldn't have wanted it to get out there that this was bad for the brand.
Oh yeah, for sure. Imagine if he just came on and went, "Yeah, it was terrible. I should have beaten him in 30 minutes." Or something. Exactly. He would never do that because he's a professional. This sparked a really interesting debate out of the show, and it was very divided. This is good. This is bad. Gonna shock you. I don't have a particularly strong opinion on the debate. I think that if things like TV ratings for TNA were coming out every week and you saw them going up, can't really argue with that. Business good. Their houses have been pretty solid for a year or so, and 4,000 is a really good number. So it's hard to tell. From an outsider's perspective with very limited data as to whether or not this has benefited. Because those are the metrics you would look at. What kind of difference is it making? But look, if there was a spike in ticket sales for the pay-per-view to that 4,000 point, if there was a spike after WrestleMania, it's good. Yeah, it's really good.
It was the most viewed video, wasn't it, over the weekend? Hendry was as he should do, by the way, promoting his own numbers. That was the most watched thing, and Hendry's excellent at social media. And
he's very good.
That in itself erects a platform for the TNA world title, and and he should, shout that from the mountains as well.
I will say as well that this is going to pay off hugely for Joe Hendry.
Yeah,
he's in a great position for doing the WrestleMania spot, and I think that maybe I don't know if the intricacies of it, but I think WWE would probably have offered him a deal regardless at the end of this year, which is his contract year. But he went in, he did a very professional match, 3 minutes. He hit his follow-away slam and did the turnaround and all that stuff.
Yeah,
amazing pop. People were super into the Joe Hendry. He was really over. He's gonna get a really good he has done himself what's the word I'm looking for? He's put himself in a great position. Yeah. So shout outs to him. He is such a good promoter. Yeah. And he's good. It's gonna pay off for him, and it's gonna work out for him. And you know, as for a guy who's been wrestling for 10, 15 years, yeah, and you know, had his time in the British Indies, had time in Ring of Honor, done all kinds of bits and pieces, been all around the world, did the Commonwealth Games separate from pro wrestling, all of that stuff. It's a feel-good story, and I don't think anyone can look at this and go, I don't like this.
Wrestlers have got like such a tricky role as well, because they've got to be expected to like find their own route to success for their own personal life, while simultaneously representing promotions. Yeah. Promotions that would cast them aside if they no longer saw them as necessary. You know, Joe Hendry's got to think about his responsibilities to TNA while simultaneously worrying first and foremost about himself. Like, that's the nature of wrestling. It's like, yes, every opportunity should be for the brand you're trying to build or whatever, but the most important brand is you. And Hendry has got that as well. He's got to navigate that currently. So yeah. I think it's those the critical voices, or the people that were kind of deriding maybe TNA's position and all of that, need to also think about the individuals at the heart of all this. We say this when wrestlers get released, don't we? Where, like it's as much about like the individual wrestlers as it is the promotions that they work for.
Speaking of wrestlers who have been released recently and will be looking to work for new promotions, segue, Shotzi. Yeah. She's been on Busted Open Radio, and she says she's had overwhelming interest, which is great, since leaving WWE. She said, I have just been glued to my phone the last few days. It's been so overwhelming. Like, just answering emails and just trying to get bookings straight. She's probably sitting there with an insane Google Calendar going, this place wants me in San Diego this weekend, but they want me in Austin, but they want me in Saskatchewan. Yeah. How do I make all this work? She summarized it by saying, just completely overwhelming, but also eye-opening and really exciting. So it was a contract expiry, non-renewal deal, right? Yeah. So she'll be free to compete as soon as her deal expires. She won't have like a non-compete. Although, correct me if I'm wrong, if she was released, she would obviously have a 90-day thing. She hasn't wrestled. I think February was her last match. She wasn't really being used all that much. The last we saw of her was the union with Tatum Paxley and Gigi Dolan, Gigi Dolan has been released as well. Shotzi's such an interesting wrestler because she's got such a like a die-hard energy. She's got a bit of Darby Allin in her. Yeah. Where she kind of throws herself into everything. Yes. Physically and mentally. And that's absolutely to her credit. I think the most compelling thing about her is when her effort level is extremely high. And that makes a huge difference when you know people are super into what they're doing. So yeah, she's going to be in huge demand. Every indie in America is going to be like, get Shotzi on the card, because she was there before as well, and she was heavily booked and pushed and promoted. But also, if you're a company looking to add like a bit of an edge to your division, good addition. I think she's not going to struggle for work at all. She's going to be fine. She's going to be able to fill up her calendar with as many indie dates as she wants. She's also probably going to get full-time offers as well. So I'm not surprised to hear this. I imagine her phone is an absolute nightmare at the moment, and I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of crazy stuff she does.
This is the other end of the release cycle, isn't it? Like you're seeing, I saw a flyer for Gigi Dolan's first match back on the Indies. Cora Jade has already got like a series of dates lined up for when the no-compete expires. We saw Duke Hudson wrestle over WrestleMania weekend. Big Duke. Like, absolutely monstering things in Pandemonium Pro.
He is in unbelievable shape. He always was. Yeah. The guy has like muscles on his thighs that don't exist. He's a beast.
Yeah, the sort of the TV wrestler role. You sometimes don't notice it, ironically, on television. It's when they're lifted out of that setting and put in a different one. And like that's something that the recently released wrestlers will benefit from, because as you point out, Shotzi was somebody that was there beforehand, but has now gone and had years of like experience with the market leader, and will know there'll be like lots of little dark art stuff that like us jabroni marks can't possibly see, that like wrestlers can present themselves differently. To drop back into that world, you come with all of this extra added value, and there's new people to wrestle, there's people that have come up in your absence, and that kind of like devil may care attitude to bumping on Shotzi's part. Like, I bet you somebody can't wait to get in there with her and be like, you're going to let me do this to you?
Yeah.
Like, do you know how over that's going to get
Yeah.
me? Like, especially like now when little things from indies get shared on X as well and people get to make their name. Gigi Olin did it as Priscilla Kelly once upon a time, you know, like she'll go back with a completely different like sort of energy that she didn't have the first time around. It's exciting getting to see the.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm all for like seeing that. I don't know enough to speak too much on this, but like I don't sense that like the American indies are in like tip-top form. So every now and then a injection of some extra talent and some what's old is new, I think can help.
Yeah, this is it. Like the American indies it's an interesting one to pick apart.
Delicate at the moment. Isn't
it? I think it's like it's obviously not as studded with big names as it was in like 2015 when your Keith Lees and your Will Ospreys and your I mean, there's Chris Heroes, there's Darby Allins, there's Donovan Dijak. There's so many names you can pull out. I mean, just look at a PWG card from that era or an Evolve card from that era. It's completely insane. It's not that laced with that level of star power. You have to dig a bit deeper. But there's, DPW is probably the best booked American promotion. I struggle to think of one that is laced together on a monthly basis in a more compelling way. There's plenty of talent out there. It's a little bit just hard. You have to dig a little deeper these days is the thing. And I love my Mad Dog Connollys and my Adam Priests and my LeBron Cozones and my Kevin Blackwoods and my Danny Lunas and my Hyans and all that stuff. Benefit of these bigger names from WWE coming back in and re-entering that scene is that maybe it raises that profile a little bit. So I love a grassroots movement. I think it's one of the most fun things in the world. So I'm looking forward to seeing them all mix it up. I want to see Shayna Baszler and Danny Luna. I want to see that combination of Danny Luna's just bombs. She's a bruiser. She's awesome. And Shayna Baszler stretching. I think that'd be really cool.
Shayna Baszler, yeah.
Book that match.
Yeah. Look, I'm a niche guy, I'm a grassroots guy as well, and that's why I want to talk about NXT. I like seeing this ground up stuff. And I'm not the only one, Murray.
To be fair,
started from the bottom, now we're here.
A lot of wrestlers enter that system with no experience.
That is true.
Technically.
And some of them are wrestlers. I'm not the only one buzzing with the grassroots niche that is NXT. The president of the C-Dub, Brad Schwartz. Don't know who he is, doesn't matter. He's the very important man at CW, and he's speaking on NXT very, very favourably indeed. Of course, they moved to the network in 2024, having been with USA since the start of the now long forgotten Wednesday Night Wars, where they were kind of crushed by AEW, but at least established themselves as a television presence enough to get this role within the CW. That's like a part of the family that WWE outside of Netflix is still with in the United States. And Brad Schwartz was speaking to Variety magazine, praising NXT as, quote, an absolute game changer for the network. He talked about obviously how there's been some obviously mutual benefits to the two sides working together. We've seen the likes of Trick Williams and Tony D'Angelo get spots on other TV shows. That's the reality of when you work with networks, and you can kind of do other programming on the network. But he had just ultimately big data and big facts to share about NXT's successes. He said, quote, it's been an absolute game changer. The last quarter that just ended was the highest rated NXT quarter in 5 years. It's up 19% year over year. In adults 18 to 49 and 25 to 54, we're regularly beating Fox on Tuesday night. It's unheard of. So it's been absolutely crushing it for us. It's one of the big reasons why our network as a whole is up 40% season over season. Besides animation on Fox, NXT has the highest concentration of 18 to 49 and 25 to 54 on all broadcasts. Some of that might be word or number soup to you or I, but ultimately now, and we've said this for years, it's been a strange thing to change your brain chemistry around talking about pro wrestling. When TV paymasters speak, that's when we kind of have to listen. Gone are the days where the pay-per-views or the house shows or even the gates necessarily are the big money makers. These TV rights are everything.
TVs are king.
That's it. And here's a kingmaker speaking highly of what is ultimately WWE's third brand.
Yep.
We've seen how WWE and USA's relationship dating all the way back to the 80s has still kind of clung on even in the Netflix era through SmackDown's airing on USA and NXT with the CW. Wrestling of all things, and it was something that was shrewdly observed enough by, I don't want to praise him, but Vince McMahon at one point, and then ultimately Tony Khan when he got into AEW, was that it can occupy this space between scripted entertainment and live sport in a way that almost nothing else does. Yeah. Live sport can still generate money in the way that increasingly scripted entertainment can't, and wrestling's found the middle, and it continues to do just that.
Yeah, it's a complete objective success. You can't look at the numbers that the NXT has delivered on the CW and say anything else. I mean, it's frequently popping like a 600, 700,000 viewership and like a nice little 1849 in about the 15 to 20, 0.15 to 0.2 range. It's very healthy, very healthy. It's very consistent. It rarely has big drop-offs or anything like that. And it spikes certain weeks and all of that good stuff. And I'd imagine, without actually having looked at it, that it's the best show that the CW has in terms of that performance. So he should be absolutely delighted with it. It's been a complete success. As always, ratings is sometimes a little bit dry for people, and sometimes people like to make crises out of ratings and stuff like that. But yeah, they're in a very healthy position. And look, the show doesn't have to be for you. It's not, heaven knows it's not for me. It doesn't really matter. That's the subjective side. Quality is entirely subjective. The objective side is that it's performing well.
Yeah.
So he should be over the moon. And that's exactly what he said. So he is like Mr. Boom. That's a Scottish thing that no one gets. Like
Mr. Boom.
Like the clangers of Button Moon.
He's Mr. Boom.
I'll tell you about Mr. Boom.
Mr. Boom.
Mr. Boom. Call him Mr. Boom. Mr. Boom lived on the moon. He was a one-man band. I'll tell you about this.
One-man band.
Yeah. Google Mr. Boom and Google Mr. Boom when you're done with this.
The chicken bakes guy from Costco.
He looks a bit like I don't know who the chicken bake guy from Costco is.
Boom.
Oh, AJ. No, he doesn't look anything like him.
Right.
The eyebrow game is a different level with AJ. Shout out to him. Let's just wrap this one up. Ratings: Mr. Boom, Costco, chicken bakes. We didn't start the fire. Here's a video about. It's the morning news video.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's a good one. Look at that thumbnail. It's all flames and stuff. Yeah. Influence.